So much to do, so little time. Hey folks, it's mid-November, and while in most of the country the gardens have started slowing down, here in the Bay Area, it's busier than ever. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I garden in the California Bay Area, and maybe you found my channel because of my content on my 14 GreenStalk. I've got loads, an entire playlist. Or maybe you're just looking for something fun to watch during the cooler months of the year in the garden. So live vicariously through me, because today we are going to be harvesting some leftover summer vegetables. We still got a lot of those. We're going to be prepping the garden for the winter and setting it up for a successful spring. And I've got my fall garden going. I can't wait to show it all to you. So let's start here at my pepper patch. The peppers get a second wind during the late fall, kind of early winter. And before the rains start, I've got to harvest them. There's loads of beauties over here. Let me turn around and show you. And I have to harvest them like today or tomorrow because they're going to start rotting once the rains start. Now, first off, I gotta have my hot peppers. These are cayennes. They are delicious. I'm of Indian origin. We love our spicy food, so let's get those harvested. And I've got some super hots as well. Let me turn around and show you. Yeah, these pepper plants are so loaded up. They're literally falling down. These peppers here, they're so pretty. They are called Sugar Rush Peach. Don't you love the color? And don't be deceived. Nothing to do with peaches there. They may be a little bit fruity in flavor, but boy, oh boy, they are hot peppers, and I use them to make pepper flakes for my pizza. One thing about this time of year, though, is the aphids do like to kind of explore my plants with their friends, the ants. Now, they have a symbiotic relationship, so if you see ants and aphids, get rid of the ants first before you get rid of the aphids. Otherwise, you're fighting a losing battle. Those ants, they protect the aphids. They've got a delicious symbiotic relationship. The aphids produce honeydew, and the ants absolutely love the honeydew, and they'll do whatever they need to protect the aphids. And right next to the Sugar Rush Peach, I have got my ancho peppers. These are kind of thinnish skin peppers, and I love them. They're great for my Mexican dishes, and many of them have started turning ripe. This thing is heavy, you guys. Oh my goodness. There are so many peppers on this, and they really pull the entire plant down. And the pepper stems do tend to be a little bit brittle, so gotta harvest these. And Jimmy Nardellos. They look deceivingly spicy, but they are not. They are not hot at all, but they are delicious. They are also slightly thinner skin, and they're a must-have in my garden every year. They produce loads of peppers. I'm continually harvesting. They're one of the first to produce, and they also taste wonderful, just slightly braised with a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, banana peppers, yeah, they don't look like bananas anymore. I often harvest them in the yellow stage, but boy, if you can let them ripen, they are delicious right off the vine. In fact, I'm going to eat one right now. Yeah, if you've never had a ripe banana pepper, you have to. Sweet, so sweet. They're like a fruit, like literally like a fruit. I can eat this whole thing plain. Such a delicious treat. Look at that, I still got some cherry tomatoes. And this is a surprise, you guys. Looks like, oh, got eaten. But looks like I've got some eggplant. Look at that. That's ready to harvest. That is Japanese eggplant. And I didn't even know until I started recording just now that we're going to have eggplant today. And I have to share a little secret with you guys about this particular bed in which I grew these peppers. This is by far my best performing bed in my entire garden, and it has been filled entirely pretty much with oak leaves. So these I just put on yesterday. That's why they're not decomposed, but underneath it's all decomposed oak leaves, 2 years worth, and they are just the most amazing compost. Grow your own homemade compost, guys, and leaf mold is your best friend. If you can get a source for leaf mold, decompose that and use them instead of peat moss in your raised beds and your planters, you'll get amazing harvests. So speaking of compost, I like to compost in place as much as possible. So if I'm not cover cropping a bed, for example, I put leaves on there, I put yard waste on there, I chop it up so it decomposes faster. Sometimes I cover it with plastic, or I just leave it as is, the rains wet it down. and it decomposes pretty fast. And then springtime, I might remove the top layer because that decomposes the slowest. And then right underneath, there's all kinds of beautiful worms. But I also have leaf mold forming in bins over here. I fill them up, and let me show you a little trick. It usually takes about 2 years for leaf mold to become that rich, dark, beautiful compost, but I can get it done in 6 months with a tool. Let me show you that tool. Okay, so this here is my favorite power tool. It's called a leaf vacuum and mulcher. It's got a bag here, and all you need to do is have one of these cordless batteries. This is a Ryobi product. No sponsorship, but we are kind of like an all Ryobi shop. We've got a ton of batteries, and we've got every single Ryobi tool under the sun. Yeah, it's my husband's obsession. We should be buying stock in that company. I think they're succeeding mainly because of his purchases. But anyway, this is kind of how it works, guys. So I've got a pile of leaves over here, and all I need to do is and the leaves are pretty much gone. So once this bag fills up, the leaves are actually mulched. So they're kind of crushed, and they're about, maybe I'd say, half the size that they originally were. And then I go and dump it in a pile in the corner of the garden, and I cover it with some black plastic, and I just kind of leave it there, and I keep filling on top of it. And then come spring and summer, I use that as my mulch. And whatever I don't finish turns into leaf mold over time. It's pretty amazing. So that leaf mulcher, it works really, really well when the leaves are dry. When the leaves are wet, no, that's not the tool. And instead of that, I use my lawnmower. Guess which company makes my lawnmower? Yeah, Ryobi. But it's great because you put all the leaves, the wet leaves, in a big heap. You run that lawnmower over it, and it does a great job of mulching the leaves. So between my blower, my mulcher, leaf mulcher, and my lawnmower, I take care of all the leaves that fall from all these oak trees around my property. Got a little bit more harvesting to do. Actually, these are cool weather crops. Potatoes. Now, potatoes will not survive frosty nights. They die back, but then because they've got multiple little eyes, they will resprout. However, I was hoping this year to get a harvest before my first frost. We're not yet at my first frost, but any day now, as we approach the end of November, here, Zone 9B, Northern California. So I'm going to actually harvest that potato. You can see that plant there starting to get yellow. And I want to do a little bit of reality check for you guys. Now, homegrown potatoes, if you don't give them too much attention, just water and initial fertilizer, they won't produce that many potatoes, which is going to be the case with this. I don't expect more than maybe 4 or so potatoes, but that's great still because it was just a little piece of potato that I had chopped off because it was sprouting in my pantry and I threw it in there. So it's kind of like free food. It would have gone into my compost, but just know that if you don't fertilize your potatoes and your vegetables in general, they won't do as well as they could have if you fertilize them. Even if your soil is good, they do just so much better with fertilizer. So let's go ahead and harvest this potato. I suspect I'll get no more than 4 kind of medium-sized ones. Let's see. I will be starting a new batch of potatoes maybe at the end of January timeframe. My last frost is typically, somewhere in the March timeframe. So by the time the potatoes get started and start sprouting, February is probably the worst month where a lot of our frost days are. After that, it starts to taper off, and these guys can handle it. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of protection. But this is my fall crop, so let's see how it did. No, there's actually 2 plants. Not bad. Yeah, I think it was 1 potato that produced 2 plants from 2 eyes, or maybe half a potato. I usually put pieces of potato. I usually cut them in about maybe half, thirds, and that's how I plant them. Now, it is a myth that potatoes will grow a lot of potatoes along the stem if you keep burying it. The main reason why you want to bury it is because the potatoes that get exposed to the light will turn green, and they are slightly bad for your tummy if they turn green. So you do want to bury them quite a bit, maybe at least 6 inches above the potato underneath. And most of the potatoes will form right around where you buried the initial potato. That's what I got from that one little piece of potato. Not bad. But again, if I had fertilized, if I had paid more attention to it, I probably may have got double of this, but I'm quite happy with this. All right, now let's go into my garden enclosure. For those of you that have been following my journey, you know that a few months ago, I built, my husband and my son helped me build this garden enclosure to protect the plants from squirrels, because I've got 6 raised beds over here that were completely fallow because I decided I didn't want to plant anything in it anymore because the darn squirrels got literally everything. So it's been functioning really well. That's the good news. The bad news, let me turn around and show you actually. Yeah, so the bad news is that we used a very flexible netting for the top of it, and our oak leaves have fallen and pulled it down. And yeah, so long story short, we are going to be replacing this netting with hardware cloth just like this, and then it won't have this problem anymore. There will still be leaves that fall, but it's really difficult to get rid of these leaves. Even with the blower, they don't really go very far because it's kind of depressed in the middle. So anyway, moving on to the harvest that I wanted to tell you guys about. It's right here. Guess what is growing in this little bus tray? Some volunteer beets that I found earlier in the year in different parts of my garden, and they are ready to harvest, you guys. Look at that. I just love free food. I wouldn't technically call it completely free because you know what? I did take it out, plant it in this, and then after that I have been watering it regularly. That's a little tiny guy. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Leave that alone. That seems to be a good size. This one seems to be pretty good as well. Now, I don't think this is going to thicken up now that the competition has been removed, but I'm going to let it be over here and let's see whether it does anything. Well, that's a good size. Look at that. I love beets. I like to just kind of boil them in water, chop them up. My mother used to mix it with some onions and coconut milk and a little bit of salt and pepper. Delicious. And that's what I'm going to do with these. Look at that. All right, I'm going to leave these to maybe grow just a little bit more. But you guys, that's a nice little harvest of beets, don't you think? And don't forget to eat the leaves. So I'll be chopping those leaves, washing them off, and I will be freezing them to throw in my smoothies. And while we're here, let me show you around some of the other things. I've got some grow bags that I've thrown some potatoes in again, those sprouting potatoes from my pantry. So looks like they're getting close to being ready too to harvest. So decent harvest of potatoes, you guys, for volunteers. These are all saffron. And this is the stage that they're at right now. So I harvested a ton of saffron blooms this year from my in-ground patch. But from these containers, for some reason, I didn't get too many. But that's okay. Lesson learned is that I think saffron actually likes to be in-ground better than it does in containers. Strawberries are doing fine. They have established in my GreenStalk. I am dedicating this GreenStalk to strawberries. I have disconnected any irrigation from it. I'm going to hand water it, see whether that makes a difference in yielding sweeter tasting strawberries. I'm going to have to stay on top of aphids. That's usually my biggest issue. But yeah, let's see how this one does. And yeah, I've kept it in this enclosure so that it can be away from the squirrels. Folks, I just wanted to remind you that I am a GreenStalk affiliate, and so that QR code over there, that will take you straight to the GreenStalk website and give you $10 off your purchase of $75 or more. I do love hearing from you, so please say something in the comments. Just say hello and tell me something about my garden or about your garden that you want to share. I sure would appreciate that, and I will definitely respond to it. So every year in my garden, I try to plant some additional perennials, either flowers or vegetables or both. And this year I made a new discovery. Have you guys ever heard of multiplier onions? So these are not the bunching onions that you get in the grocery store, the green onions. These are little onion bulbs that you can get, and you plant them, and one little onion results in multiple little onions. So I've grown Egyptian walking onions before. Those are topset onions. They grow mostly for the greens, and then they produce a clump of little teeny tiny onions at the top, which is really weird and interesting. And then it gets heavy, it drops onto the ground and then takes root over there. And that's why they're called walking onions. Now, the thing about walking onions is that they do not produce much of a bulb, but the bunching onions, the multiplier onions do. So these are from Baker Creek. I actually was on the waiting list because they are never in stock. They're always out of stock. So I wanted to grab them. They're called Shirley Hammond bunching onions. Let me turn around and show you up close. So I planted these a few weeks ago, and this, believe it or not, was one onion bulb. And it has already split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, or 8, right? And you can get even much more, up to 30 from one single bulb. But these were tiny bulbs. So I got like, I think a dozen, maybe 10 actually from Baker Creek. And each one of them has started multiplying already into multiple onions. That's why they're called multiplier onions. And they'll take over this whole little galvanized bed pretty quickly. But again, first year growing them, let's see how they do. I am really excited to grow these forever and ever in my garden, hopefully, if they enjoy it here. And speaking of onions, one thing that does grow really well in containers is your actual bulb onions. Now, this year I'm growing short day onions, and I'm growing them from seed, and I'm also growing them from transplants. I get transplants from Dixondale, and a friend of mine just gave me onion sets, which are little onions that had started sprouting, growing, starting to form the bulb, and then they were yanked out of the soil and made to go dormant and then sold to you. Now, onion sets are the easiest to grow because, you just put them in the ground, they'll start growing, they'll produce a little bulb. The problem with them is that mostly they are going to bolt, which means they're going to produce a flower head, because onions are biennials. So the first year they produce the bulb, the second year they produce the flower. And when they go through that heavy disruption in their life cycle where they had started to bulb and they got pulled out and sold to you, put dormant and sold to you, guess what? They think that they're in their second year. So the best way to grow onions is really from seeds. Second best way is from transplants. Third and worst way is from sets. So if you're a beginner, just want to figure out how to kind of grow onions, get some sets. They're the easiest. Onions are a tricky beast. I'll put a video on all my learnings on growing onions over the past few years. And this year I'm trying new things again. But let me show you my onion threads that are going to become big bulbs, because I want to show you the progress over the months. Yeah, you can barely see this, right? You guys, literally, these are the thickness of like thick threads. And these are going to become huge onions. So I'll show you that. Hold me to that, all right? And going around the corner here, these are my brassicas. Now, I was really hoping that they were going to produce something for me. This is broccoli. This is, I think, late Dutch flat white cabbage. That one is some sort of cauliflower. I think it's self-blanching cauliflower, something like that. But I was hoping that they would produce this year. I think, unfortunately, because of the leaves and the shade cloth that I put over here, they didn't grow as fast as I wanted them to. So hopefully they'll produce in early spring. But I wanted to show you the key difference between this and their siblings right here. These guys were literally planted 2 weeks apart. But you see how big this one is? And you see how big these are? Yeah, planting earlier in the season when it is still warm and the sun is still bright makes them grow just a whole lot faster. So next year I'll probably be planting them even earlier. I've got some lovely peas that I've started, and you guys, I have got carrots. They're starting to grow fast. I'm going to have to thin them, and it's pretty easy to thin. It's just really painful. You just pull out some carrots here and there like that, and then you come back and keep doing this. So yeah, I'll have to do that. I'll wait a little while more. Shallots. I got these from the grocery store, from Costco actually, and I planted them. Shallots are kind of like somewhere in between onions and garlic. They're in the same family, all alliums, but they're, you see this. This looks like onions. Garlics have flat stems or leaves, but then underneath they divide just like garlic would. So it's a milder tasting onion, very delicious and very, very, very easy to grow. Get yourself some Costco shallots. I have this little pop-up plastic greenhouse that I picked up on Amazon just to put some of my winter cold sensitive plants, for example. Just started doing it. I've got my turmeric that I transferred over here. I've got this coleus. All of these do not like frost, so they're going to stay in this greenhouse. It's nice and warm here. I can see some leeks growing there. Leeks also are relatives of the onion and garlic, and they're actually more closely related to garlic. Anyway, different video to talk about all of these things, but they are all growing nicely. I've got some borage. Borage is one of those flowers you plant once, you'll have them forever and ever. And then I've got some kale that is coming back. Kale is also a perennial, and it will keep coming back as long as your weather permits it. So these are my newest GreenStalks. These are my snow GreenStalks. I got them in basket weave. The snow and the glacier blue are the combo colors that are on sale this winter from GreenStalk 2025. And they're lovely. I've never done combos before, but I love this combination so much. And I think this white color can combine very easily with a lot of colors without being kind of harsh on your eyes. I'm kind of sensitive to very drastic colors. Speaking of colors, I got a whole bunch of beautiful violas. Actually, these are pansies from the big box store. I think I got 2 6-packs. But the thing is, these were all little teeny plants. I have been dividing them. They divide very easily. Let me show you a quick clip of a video that I made the other day where I divided this viola plant, and it had little roots, and I replanted it, and I got a whole new plant. I love growing pansies and violas in my GreenStalks and all over my garden during the cooler season. The problem with them is that they are very difficult to grow from seeds. Not difficult, but they take forever, right, to get to a size that you can plant in your garden. Now, you can keep buying the 6-packs from the big box store. It'll add up over time. Let me show you an even better method to get lots of plants in a very short period of time. So you want to take root cuttings right there. Just separate out one of the stems and carefully dig as deep as you can without killing the entire plant. And then you take it out and you notice it's got some roots. This, you guys, is a whole new plant. And I'm going to be sticking it here right next to my lantana to grow. Water it in, and you'll have a brand new plant in your GreenStalk. One more thing to give you a little bit of a head start is you need to learn to recognize pansy seedlings. These over here are pansy seedlings. And the way that it works is that they have these little seed pod heads and they explode. You see this over here, right here. This has exploded. You can see the teeny tiny seeds in it. They're all soggy from the rain. But yeah, they spew their seeds everywhere and little seedlings will start to grow. Now, if you can take these out and go and put it in a little seed starting tray, 6-pack, whatever, you will have seedlings like 2 weeks a head start than actually starting them from seeds. So pay attention to your volunteer plants. Yeah, but I'm really thrilled at how nicely my GreenStalks are filling out, and all these beautiful colors, they're going to just pop in no time at all. I'm especially excited about the painted daisies. These are beautiful little cute daisies with kind of like a double color center, and they look gorgeous. I've never grown them before, but in the picture they look beautiful, and they're growing really, really well. And I started them from seed, which makes me extra proud. Now, one more thing that you really need to plant in your garden, if you can, is alyssum. Alyssum, yeah, it'll propagate. Once you plant it, you'll have it forever because it'll keep dropping seeds and you'll be pulling out little seedlings from everywhere, and you will be potting them up and you will be planting them in different parts of your garden because they look so absolutely gorgeous. And the nice thing, it's a perennial in my climate, and I do need to trim it back when the weather is really hot. And the way that I do that is I go underneath and I chop it off from underneath, because this is where the branches start to dry out. So you can chop it all the way down and it's going to fill right back up and it's going to overflow in your planter and it's going to look just beautiful. I've got some daffodils that are going to be popping up any day. These are some new varieties, new bulbs that I got. One of them is called Replete, and the other one is called, I think, Easter Basket or something like that. But they're both very beautiful daffodils that I am glad to add to my collection. And speaking of adding to my collection, this is another beautiful flower that I grew for the first time last year. A friend of mine gave me a couple of small plants and they were so pretty. I'm growing a lot more. Costco had a bunch of these, like 80 corms. Early fall, they had it and went very quickly. And I bought a bag and I planted them and they are growing and I just can't wait for them to flower. Another flower that I'm totally in love with is snapdragons, and I've got them in all kinds of colors, and I am growing even more colors this year. I just can't get enough of them. And they also happen to be a perennial, at least a tender perennial, at least 2 or 3 years in my climate. I'm so lucky. All of this is volunteer lettuce, you guys. If you let a few of your plants go to seed, you will have a lot of volunteers. I just love this pretty lettuce. I think this is oak leaf lettuce. Another plant that volunteers very easily. This is goji berry. Let me show you where it came from. Yep, goji berry galore. It's just producing and producing. Now, this is one of those things. It's one of those superfoods, you guys. Very tasty berry. Some people may not like it. It's got a hint of bitter, but I love it. And you can't get these fresh in the grocery store. Very difficult to get because they are super, super delicate. And believe it or not, they are from the tomato family. So yeah, if I crush it and show you the seeds, you will recognize that they look like little tomato seeds. That's because they are cousins. Yeah, so every day I come and I take a few of these and I pop them in my mouth. The legend has it that there's this Chinese monk or something like that who lived to like 130 years because he ate goji berries every day. Might be a little bit of a myth, but hey, if I could live even to 100, I would be amazingly grateful. What did I just eat? Ooh, sorry. Yeah, there was something stuck on that goji berry. I think it was a dried leaf, but it's kind of difficult to see what I'm eating when I'm talking in the camera. I should stop doing that. Starting to get darker. Let me speed up this video so I can edit it and post it for you tomorrow. Quick little update on my greenhouse GreenStalks. They have finally all been planted for the winter garden. This Brussels sprouts, I just planted one plant and it grew, and I am so excited. Never grown Brussels sprouts before. Little worried that they are opening up, but we'll see how they do. And yeah, just by way of context, these two GreenStalks in the front here are a little experiment that I'm doing that's kind of already going south, but they are all root vegetables for the most part, at least the lower 3 tiers. And I am planting beets, carrots, and radishes. Now they've all been direct seeded. This one had a supplement of bone meal added to it, and I'm going to be fertilizing with kelp fertilizer. This one I'm just going to be fertilizing with my regular Dr. Earth liquid fertilizer, and that's pretty much it. I've got my regular GreenStalk DIY soil mix in it, and let's see whether the phosphorus and the kelp meal make a difference on that side, because that's what Susie, the head gardener of GreenStalk, advised. Now, the reason I say it's going south already is because I made the mistake of not using fresh seeds. These are little finger carrots, and practically none of them sprouted yet. It looks like a lot sprouted, right? No, those are actually carrot seedlings that I pulled from another part of my garden. So now the experiment has taken on a new form. The experiment is, can you transplant carrot seedlings? So let's see how these do. The radishes seem to be coming up okay. And then over here as well, yeah, you can see not much germination happening. So yeah, unfortunately, carrot seedlings, they take a really long time to germinate, and then you don't use fresh stock. It's anyone's guess whether or not they're going to come up. Now in this GreenStalk, I have planted, for the most part, my very, very, very favorite bok choy variety. It's called Joy Choy. It grew so beautifully for me last year. Large, huge leaves, so delicious, and they lasted like forever. So growing them again. I've got some wild arugula. This is a new favorite of mine that grows extremely well in the GreenStalk, can be propagated from cuttings, but also can be grown from seeds. And turning around to this side, this is the GreenStalk that I planted up just about 2 days ago. I got some beet transplants going here and some purple lady bok choy. So yeah, all the favorite winter greens growing in these. And let me show you these GreenStalks. Yeah, so this was the first GreenStalk that I planted up in early fall. You guys, it has produced so much lettuce for me and so much chard for me. And finally, a lot of them are starting to bolt. Believe it or not, cool season, but these are bolting because they're just done with their life cycle. Look at all the spinach growing here. So I'm going to be replacing a lot of these lettuces, particularly, especially the ones that are bolting. And of course, the marigolds are going to die once we have our first frost. But gosh, they look so pretty. And this GreenStalk was another experiment of mine. I just keep doing these things that go south on me. But I planted only brassicas in this GreenStalk. I left the odd alyssum over there, but brassicas only because the cabbage moth was just devastating. And I figured I would cover this with the GreenStalk, insect netting. And I did that. And it worked for the most part. The cabbage moths didn't get to it. But then one day I happened to leave it open just for a few minutes and the squirrels came. They ate off all the tops of my cabbage and my broccoli. So, oh well, I guess I'll only get leaves. And then finally over here, another experiment that I am doing. Ignore the last two tiers. These are again beets and chard. But I am growing alliums, you guys, for the first time. So I've got onion seedlings growing here and I've got garlic seedlings that have just sprouted. So let's see how I'm able to grow my alliums in the GreenStalk. I've never done that before, and I've got the same varieties growing in other parts of the garden. So let's see how they do. These are large size onions, so I've planted only one seedling per pocket. I think they are either short or intermediate day, which is the varieties that we grow over here in the Bay Area. And of course, I've got to show you what's going on in my messy greenhouse. Yep, have not yet cleaned it, but I am not being stopped from starting a lot of seedlings again for my GreenStalk and others. These are the pansies, by the way, the ones that I just showed you that I got the root cuttings for. They are all growing. They're actually ready to be transplanted back in the garden. These are volunteers that I thought were pansies when they were tiny seedlings. Turned out that they're some kind of sage family. Oh well, I plant them somewhere else in my garden. Some more purple lady bok choy and some more volunteer pansy seedlings that I dug up from my GreenStalk, and I'm growing a next batch here. And these are interesting. You guys, these are geraniums that I grew from seed. Do you know you can grow geraniums from seed? I'm so proud of these. These are bullseye geraniums. Very, very pretty variety. So let's see how they do. I've also got some poppies, some bergamot, which is like bee balm. I've got some erigeron over there. Now, erigeron is a lovely little daisy-like flower that's all over the place in Europe, and they grow just beautiful in the garden. So growing those, I've got some alyssum that's not doing very well, so I'm gonna have to figure that one out. This is pastel shades, this is not white. And then these are Johnny Jump Ups, my favorite viola in the whole wide world, and they look amazing in the GreenStalk. You guys, you have to grow Johnny Jump Ups. Oh, and here I am growing some thyme. This is creeping thyme, and I'm growing it as a ground cover. So let's see how that does. Another experiment. And yeah, other odds and ends over here. So these little galvanized beds that I got on Amazon, no name brand, you guys have wanted me to keep you updated on how they do. It's been about a year. They're doing really well so far. They've got water stains, hard water stains on them, but that's my fault. But I'm not seeing any rust or anything so far, but it's only been about a year or so. So let's see how they do. If you're wondering what all the white trash baskets are, those are again to protect against squirrels. These lovely little dark spots are perfect for squirrels to bury their stuff. And I've got what's it called, parsley. No. This is actually celery. This is Chinese pink celery, which was volunteering in my garden. So I'm growing them over here now, and let's see how they do. And here are my onion seedlings, you guys. So these are the ones that I got from Dixondale Farms as transplants. Now, I've had the most success growing from transplants, and so every year I order from Dixondale Farms. The problem is quite a few of them do bolt. So this year I'm doing seedlings as well. Very challenging for me to grow onions from seedlings, but I've got a whole bunch that I've managed to have succeed that I showed you earlier that look like threads right now. So let's see how they do. Let's do a comparison. Now, I'm yet to plant my onions from sets, but we'll do a comparison of all three once I do that. This is my garlic, yet another experiment that I'm doing. These were planted in early October, and I've got 2 more batches that I planted 2 weeks apart. So early November, mid-November. I'm just trying to see whether it makes a difference when you plant when it comes to garlic and how big the garlic bulbs get. Razzleberry green stalks are starting to fill out again. You guys who follow me may remember these had grown huge and out of control, but they were beautiful in spring. And so I just chopped them back. I just hacked them back, but they are now growing again. These are geraniums, and these marguerite daisies are starting to bloom again. I can see so many little buds coming. Absolute favorite flower for the green stalk. I've also got creeping verbena that is starting to bloom again right here. You guys grow this in your green stalk. They come in so many colors. And let's see what else. I've got gazania. Gazania is pretty nice as well. So it's not yet open. It usually opens in midday and then closes up later in the evening. But yeah, very lovely flower, and it will multiply in size, clumps and clumps. So that's one way of getting lots of gazanias in your garden, and you can share with friends as well. This large planter that you can't see anymore here was actually initially set up for hyacinths, and I've got hyacinth bulbs in this, but I don't think they're going to be able to come up this year because you know what I did? I just stuck a little stick of snapdragons here and there, and before you know it, the snapdragons have taken over this entire planter. Nasturtiums are peeking out from who knows where. Alyssum is coming out, and yeah, hyacinths somewhere in there. Good luck, guys. Let's see whether they show their faces this season. Now, this greenhouse that I set up over my Vago, I think this is 32 inches tall raised bed, is doing really well. At least the stuff in it is doing really well. I've got a lot of stuff that I've started from cuttings, a lot of stuff that I'm going to be overwintering. All right, I opened it up so you guys could peek in here with me. Yeah, tropical plants like curry leaf. I've got papaya, and I've got all my coleus overwintering in here as well. What a lovely 4 o'clock plant that is blooming inside here. All the other 4 o'clocks are gone, but these are enjoying the warmth and humidity. I planted my turmeric over here to let it overwinter, and I've got some lemongrass that I am starting from the little, the bottom thing, and I'm going to keep it here over winter. Just a lot of stuff going on. A little dragon fruit plant, even butterfly pea growing here. I don't know whether it'll make it, but what the heck, why not? We've got some basil. Yeah, all kinds of good stuff that I think will do well. Even a fig tree in this lovely frost-covered greenhouse. Now, my elevated raised planters from Vago Garden have been, I think, among my favorite things in the garden this year. They've all done super well. Of course, the seasons are turning now, so not that much going on. I've got a large pepper plant. This one, you guys, started out as a teeny tiny 6-inch plant. This is a Peruvian pepper, and it has grown and grown and grown, and it's just grown this way and that way, and it is loaded with peppers. I'm only hoping that they will ripen. They were planted pretty late in the season, but oh my goodness, this has been the year of peppers for me, you guys. And this little indicator tells me whether or not I need to refill it, but it contains 20 gallons of water. So I have hardly watered this other than fill it up. During the peak season, during summer, I filled it up maybe once a week. This was just such a godsend for me to have this planter. It relieved me of so much work of watering, and obviously the plant growing in it is thanking me for it. And I want to show you one thing, you guys. Behind the planter right now, and you know what this is? This over here is a praying mantis egg. I've got a lot of praying mantises in my garden this year. They're starting to really love the ecosystem, and they're one of the best friends of the garden. So I am dying for that little praying mantis egg to open up and produce all kinds of babies. Do you know that each of these casings can contain like 100 or 200 little babies? Yeah, amazing. So I don't know what to do with this. Have any of you guys done the hatching thing with them, taken them inside? I am thinking I should just leave it here and let nature do its thing. But let me know in the comments if you guys know anything about praying mantis eggs and how to take care of them. I'm also a Vago Garden affiliate, and if you use my QR code and also use the code GreenLove10, you will get $10 off your entire purchase. Thank you so much for your support for my channel. There's another elevated planter from Vago Garden. You can hardly see it, but believe it or not, this is a tomato plant, you guys. Look how lush it is. I mean, we are at the end of November, and this tomato plant is looking so beautiful. It's on its way out, so I'm going to just take it away. Tomatoes are not going to form and ripen on it, but I'm just impressed at how well it's growing in this planter. Now, I am reluctant to try and drag it, but this is on wheels and I can actually move it around. The wheels are so solid and it moves so silky smooth. This cantaloupe is on its way out, obviously end of season, but it produced a little cantaloupe for me. It actually produced another large one, and then it's got some tiny ones end of season that are growing. And yeah, that box is because I've got rats. So I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Do hit that like button, throw a heart below, whatever you need to do in order to get the YouTube algorithm to show you more of my videos and spread this one around. I sure would appreciate it. Until next time, live green and love your greens.